Don't drive on South Fork Road with a tail light out. There is only one road that leads to Jacob's Landing. Considered an isolated hive of poor white trash by neighbors, most Americans would describe as such. It lies at the far end of South Fork Road, a narrow trail that remained unpaved until the past 10 years. If you want a mental image of the community, then picture any poor post-industrial town in Ohio or West Virginia. Place it on the coast and make it smell like rotting fish. I'm not saying this to be rude, I still call the place home, but I am honest about where I live. And I feel that this is needed context to explain the atmosphere in which this story occurred. Growing up, there were always stories us kids would tell each other about the thing with too many eyes that lived in the woods, or old lady so-and-so who was a witch. But one was a favorite of the local gossip circles, and that was the story of the silent patrol car. As the story went, sometime between 1960 and 1980, a sheriff's deputy who might have been named Hank. If you go by the version my older brother tormented me with as a boy, sometimes the name is changed to Bill or James. These were also favorite names, depending on who was telling the story. Whoever he was, this young man was assigned to a speed trap along South Fork Road during a dark and misty night. Around midnight, a car came shooting down the road like a bat out of hell, and Deputy Hank peeled out after him. From here, the story us kids told would veer into an exciting car chase stolen from whatever movie we had seen most recently, and entirely divorced from the local geography. But it always ended the same. Deputy Hank going off the road and smashing into a particular crooked old tree just outside of town. The legend went like this, that to this day, between midnight and sunrise, anyone who broke any law on South Fork Road would find a patrol car appearing behind them out of the mist. It would chase you down all the while making no sound, until you either went off the road yourself or made it past the tree where the story claimed he met his grisly end. For 47 years I have lived here and never believed a single one of the silly stories I heard as a child. But after what just happened, I'm convinced this one is true. Last night I was in Whisper Bay, big-ish town north of here, attending a Memorial Day party at an old friend's house. As I was leaving, he ran alongside my car and warned me that my right tail light was out, and to watch out for cops as I drove home. I swore at the inconvenience, thanked him, and began the drive home. I took the back roads through an area we used to call Mud Hill and south onto South Fork Road. I'd been driving for maybe half a mile when this enormous buck stepped out in front of me, and I had to slam on my brakes. It stopped in the way of deer and looked at me as if I were the suicidal maniac and not the damned kamikaze animal in front of me. That's when I noticed the flashing lights in my rearview mirror, not wanting to block the road. I pulled ahead and off to the side to wait for the cop to give me a hard time about the tail light. But as the lights got closer, I realized they were not slowing down. My first thought was that he was responding to an emergency in town and didn't know or care about my broken tail light. But it soon became clear that he was heading right for me. I slammed on the gas, thanking God I hadn't turned off the engine. But it wasn't enough, as the grill of the old patrol car slammed hard into the back of my truck, jarring my head forward into the steering wheel with a sharp knock that left blood dripping down my face from a small cut above my eyebrow. The first thoughts that went through my mind after I could think at all were, of course, that the officer had some kind of medical emergency behind the wheel and needed help. But as I looked back at the cop who was already backing up, something came over me that I cannot explain. Some animal part of my brain, some hunter's instinct from our mammoth killing days told me to run. And when there was no doubt that the car was lining up to make another run, that is exactly what I did. I hit 80 as fast as I could, and that old patrol car was matching my speed exactly. It was then that I realized that I could only hear the roar of my own engine, and not the V8 growl of his. The story of the silent patrol car came back to me from its childhood tomb, and pushed my needle even farther into the red, as blood flowed thicker now into my eye, half blinding me as I raced. I was going 100 by the time I could see the lights of town through the woods, and had no plans on stopping. That gnarled old tree that had killed its share of drunks was rushing up on me, and I honestly didn't care if I made it past or died in the attempt. Now, as I write this in hindsight with an ice pack on my head and a cigarette in my hand, I find it hard to believe what happened to me. I want to rationalize this. I try to, but I can't. I know what I saw, and I know I'm not crazy, When I shot past that tree and onto Main Street like a bullet, I watched in the mirror as the patrol car behind me, never slowing, reached the tree and then, like the flick of a switch, was gone. One moment it was there, and the next there was nothing but straight, empty blacktop behind me for as far as the eye could see. I never slowed until I screamed up my driveway and stumbled blindly into my bathroom to puke. But when with shaking hands I reached for the lighter in my pocket, I found a crumpled sheet of old yellow paper, a speeding ticket dated 1974. So I warn you now, whomever and wherever you may be, not to disregard the stories you heard as kids. Oh, most of them are probably nonsense. In your case, maybe all of them. But let this stand as a warning that not all are fiction. Some are corruptions of explainable events. Others are fables meant to teach a lesson. But somewhere out there in the night, there are a few that are nothing but the unvarnished truth. Drive safe. If you enjoyed the story, consider subscribing. But don't blame me if you can't sleep tonight. Until next time, keep the lights on and the doors locked. Goodbye.